The first thing Kael felt was the iron hook buried beneath his ribs. The second was the laughter. It rolled through the execution arena like thunder over a graveyard. Nobles leaned forward in velvet seats. Hunters raised crystal glasses. Children pointed at the blood dripping from his boots. Even the slaves chained beneath the stands laughed, because they had learned that surviving meant laughing, whenever the powerful laughed. Kael hung above the black stone floor, with both arms stretched apart. His tendons had been cut. His mana core had been shattered. His left eye was swollen shut. Across the arena, the woman he had once loved rested her hand on another man's shoulder. Selene looked radiant in white armor, pure, gentle, untouched by guilt. Beside her stood Darius Vane, heir to the strongest hunter clan in the kingdom. Golden flames crawled across his gauntlets while the crowd chanted his name. Darius stepped forward and raised Kael's broken dagger. This belonged to the man who betrayed humanity. The crowd roared. Kael tasted blood. Betrayed humanity. That was the lie they had chosen. Not useless trash. Not powerless porter. Not disposable shield, traitor. A cleaner word. A word that let heroes sleep at night after murdering the man who carried their supplies, treated their wounds, mapped their dungeons, and dragged their bodies out of monster nests. Kael had awakened the lowest skill known to mankind, Scavenge. It allowed him to collect scraps from monster corpses, broken claws, damaged scales, rotten organs, worthless remains. The guild laughed when his status was revealed. His father erased his name from the family registry. His younger brother called him a stain on their bloodline. Selene had held his hand and promised she did not care. Then she used him for years. Kael entered every dungeon first. He triggered every trap. He carried every burden. He surrendered every rare drop because Selene said the team needed unity. He endured humiliation because he believed patience would be rewarded. That belief had died long before his body. It died inside the abyssal labyrinth. Their expedition had reached the heart of the dungeon after months of bloodshed. There, beneath a mountain of bones, they found the corpse of an ancient calamity, known as the Devouring Monarch, a monster so terrifying that even its dead body poisoned the air. The others could not approach it. Their legendary skills failed. Their divine weapons trembled. Only Kael's pathetic scavenge skill reacted. For the first time in his life, the word worthless vanished from their faces. Selene hugged him. Darius called him brother. The guildmaster promised him wealth beyond imagination. Kael touched the corpse. A black crystal emerged from its chest, the heart of devouring, a relic capable of absorbing monster abilities. The moment it appeared, Selene drove a sword through Kael's back. Darius crushed his legs. The guildmaster tore the crystal from his hands. They left him inside the dungeon to die. But Kael survived. He crawled through rivers of poison. He ate monster flesh. He wrapped his wounds with strips of his own clothing. He returned to the surface after weeks of agony. He expected justice. Instead, Darius had already become the kingdom's new hero. Selene had already testified that Kael murdered the expedition team and stole the relic. The guild forged records. The church declared him corrupted. His family denounced him. Every person he had saved turned away. Then they hunted him. Now he hung above the arena while the true thieves prepared to execute him. Darius smiled. You were born trash. You lived as trash. And today you will finally die like trash. Selene lowered her gaze as if grieving. That performance hurt more than the hook. She whispered just loudly enough for Kael to hear. You should have stayed inside the dungeon. Kael looked at her through his remaining eye. He did not curse. He did not beg. He did not scream. He smiled. It was a small smile. Cold, quiet. It made Selene's fingers tighten around Darius's shoulder. Darius frowned. What are you smiling at? Kael's voice came out rough. I was thinking about how ugly you will look when you crawl. The arena fell silent. Darius's face twisted. He raised his flaming hand. The blow struck Kael's chest. Bones cracked. Fire entered his lungs. The world turned white. Then black. Then nothing. Kael died while the crowd cheered. But death did not keep him. A sound echoed in the darkness. Not a bell. Not a voice. Something colder. Something vast. Something that seemed to speak from inside his bones. Compatible soul detected. Scavenge skill confirmed. Devouring authority fragment confirmed. Extreme resentment confirmed. Conditions fulfilled. Unique system awakening. Monster skill theft system activated. Kael opened his eyes. Rain tapped against a cracked window. He lay on a thin mattress inside a narrow room. His breath stopped. The arena was gone. The hooks were gone. His limbs were whole. He raised both hands. No burns. No broken fingers. On the wall hung a rusted guild calendar. Kael stared at the date written in faded ink. 3 years before the Abyssal Labyrinth expedition. 3 years before his betrayal. 7 days before his first official dungeon raid with Celine and Darius. A laugh rose in his throat. He crushed it before it escaped. Outside the room, someone kicked the door. Kael, wake up, you useless dog. His younger brother, Lucian. The same brother who would one day spit at Kael's feet before the execution. The door flew open. Lucian entered wearing silver training armor. His blonde hair was perfect. His expression carried the effortless disgust of someone who had never been denied anything. Behind him stood 2 family servants. One held Kael's old equipment, a chipped knife, a torn leather vest, a rope bag. Lucian threw them onto the floor. Father said you are joining the Black Fang raid today. Try not to embarrass the family. Better yet, stand in front of a monster and make yourself useful. The servants laughed. Kael sat on the bed. His memories aligned with brutal clarity. This morning had happened before. He had lowered his head. He had endured the insult. He had gone to the dungeon. Inside, Darius deliberately pushed him toward a venom wolf to entertain Celine. Kael survived by luck. That humiliation became the beginning of his reputation as the guild's cowardly porter. Kael looked at Lucian. In his previous life, he had craved his family's approval. He had worked until his palms split. He had handed over every coin. He had accepted blame for Lucian's mistakes. None of it mattered. When Kael was accused of treason, Lucian volunteered to testify against him. He described Kael as jealous, unstable, greedy. The lie earned him a promotion. Kael rose slowly. Lucian expected fear. Instead, he saw calm. That calm unsettled him. What are you staring at? Kael picked up the chipped knife. For an instant, he imagined pushing it beneath Lucian's jaw. One movement, one corpse, one less enemy. But revenge done in anger was wasteful. A dead Lucian would feel nothing. A living Lucian could lose everything. His rank, his pride, his inheritance, his name, his hope. Kael wanted all of it stripped away piece by piece. He smiled. Nothing. Lucian sneered. That is exactly what you are. Kael walked past him. Lucian grabbed his shoulder. Kael's body reacted before thought. He twisted, stepped aside, pressed the chipped blade against Lucian's throat. The servants froze. Lucian's eyes widened. Kael had no combat skill. Everyone knew that. Yet his movement had been clean, precise, natural. Years of surviving monster nests had carved experience into his soul, even if his current body remained weak. A thin line of blood appeared beneath the blade. Kael leaned closer. Do not touch me again, Lucian swallowed. Rage replaced shock. You dare threaten me? Kael removed the blade. Threaten? He glanced at the blood on the edge. That was advice. He walked away before Lucian could answer. The family estate looked smaller than he remembered. The marble corridors once felt majestic. Now they looked like a decorated cage full of insects. Servants whispered as he passed. The trash son. The failed awakener. The shame of House Arden. Kael heard every word. He stored every face. Not because each insult deserved death. Death was expensive. Some people only deserved to watch. Outside, the morning sky was gray. A black carriage waited at the gate. Celine stood beside it. Her chestnut hair fell over white robes. A silver healing staff rested in her hand. She looked exactly as she had. Before betrayal taught Kael what lived beneath beauty. When she saw him, she smiled warm, soft. Perfectly practiced. Kael, I was worried you might be late. In his previous life, that smile made his heart race. Now it made his fingers cold. Darius leaned against the carriage behind her. He wore red armor and a sword engraved with flame runes. At this point in time, he had not yet inherited his clan. He had not yet become the kingdom's hero. He was arrogant, talented, dangerous, but not untouchable, not yet. Darius looked at Kael's equipment and laughed. That knife looks older than your bloodline. Kael climbed into the carriage without responding. Darius's smile faded slightly. He loved reactions. Anger, shame. Fear, silence denied him food. Celine sat across from Kael. She studied his face. You seem different today. Kael met her eyes. For a heartbeat, he saw the woman in the execution arena. The white armor, the lowered gaze, the whisper. You should have stayed inside the dungeon. He smiled gently. I slept well. Celine relaxed. Darius snorted. The carriage moved toward the northern gate. Kael turned his attention inward. A dark window appeared before his eyes. Only he could see it. Monster skill theft system. Host ability detected. Scavenge. Current rank considered worthless by world standards. System evaluation considered incomplete. Core function available. When host personally kills or contributes to killing a monster, host may extract one inherent skill from the corpse. Extraction success depends on compatibility, contribution, and monster condition. Skills may evolve through repeated extraction. Skills may fuse. Skills may devour weaker skills. No known upper limit. Kael read the final line twice. No known upper limit. His pulse remained steady. Inside, something monstrous opened its eyes. In his previous life, the heart of devouring had changed the balance of the kingdom. Darius used only a fragment of its power and became nearly invincible. But he had never understood it. He could absorb raw abilities, yet the relic damaged his body and twisted his mind. Kael's system was different. Cleaner. Deeper. It was not merely a relic. It was an authority bound to his soul. The world called Scavenge trash because it only saw scraps. The system saw ownership. Whatever a monster possessed could become his. Strength, speed, regeneration, venom, armor, magic, instinct, even bloodline abilities. Kael looked through the carriage window as the city walls passed. 7 days from now, Darius would push him toward the venom wolf. This time, Kael would not escape it. He would kill it, then steal its poison. After that came the iron bear, the shadow moths, the bone serpent, the hidden dungeon chamber no one else knew existed. The future unfolded inside his memory like a map drawn in blood. Treasures, ambushes, wars, ruins. Every opportunity stolen from him in his first life still waited to be claimed. Every enemy still believed him weak. That was the greatest gift. Darius thought he was bringing a porter. Celine thought she was leading a loyal fool. House Arden thought its useless son remained desperate for affection. The guild thought Scavenge could never become dangerous. Kael lowered his gaze to hide the smile forming on his lips. Let them laugh. Let them use him. Let them stand above him and celebrate. He would not expose his fangs too early. A beast that roared before the hunt only warned its prey. Kael preferred silence. He would grow beneath their feet. He would feed on every monster they weakened. He would steal every skill they overlooked. He would turn their dungeon raids into his private harvest. Then, when the world finally realized what he had become, escape would already be impossible. The carriage stopped at the Black Fang Guild. Hunters gathered outside the stone building. Some mocked Kael openly. Others ignored him. A few placed bets on how quickly he would cry inside the dungeon. Kael stepped down from the carriage. Darius clapped a heavy hand on his shoulder. Stay close, trash. Carry what we tell you. Do not touch anything valuable. Kael glanced at the hand, then at Darius. His smile was mild, obedient, almost grateful. Of course, Darius turned away, satisfied. Celine followed him. The other hunters laughed and entered the guild. Kael remained outside for one final breath. Cold wind moved through his hair. The city smelled of smoke, steel, and wet stone. In his previous life, this was the morning his humiliation began. In this life, it was the morning the monsters became his inheritance. Kael tightened his grip on the chipped knife. He did not need justice. He did not need forgiveness. He did not need anyone to believe him. He only needed corpses. Monster corpses first. Human ones later. Then he walked into the guild with a quiet smile. Deep inside his soul, the system waited hungrily. So did he. The Black Fang Guild smelled of iron, sweat, and cheap ambition. Kael remembered every crack in the stone floor, every scar on the training walls. every face that had laughed while he carried their equipment. Nothing had changed. That was useful. People were easiest to control when they believed the future would repeat itself. A broad man in dark leather stood behind the mission desk. Garen Holt, vice captain of the guild. His beard was braided with iron rings. His left cheek carried the claw mark of a frost lynx, a scar he displayed whenever he wanted inexperienced hunters to fear him. Garen looked at Kael's torn vest. His mouth curled. So the Arden family finally sent its garbage. The nearby hunters laughed. Kael lowered his head, not too deeply, just enough to look ashamed. Garen enjoyed the sight. In the previous life, Kael had tried to defend himself. He had explained that his scavenge skill could help recover useful materials. Garen had mocked him for nearly an hour, then assigned him twice the normal load. This time, Kael said nothing. Silence made cruel men careless. Garen kicked a stack of bags toward him. Potions, rope, food, spare weapons. You carry all of it. The bags were heavy enough to break an ordinary porter's back. Darius glanced over but did not object. Celine pressed her lips together, pretending sympathy. Captain Garen, perhaps that is too much. Her voice was soft, concerned, beautifully false. Garen waved one thick hand. If he cannot carry supplies, what use is he? Celine looked at Kael as though waiting for gratitude. In his first life, he had smiled at her. He had thanked her for speaking up. That tiny kindness had deepened his loyalty. Now he understood. Celine never stopped Garen. She only made certain Kael noticed that she had tried. A perfect little performance. Kael bent and lifted the bags. His knees trembled under the weight. That part required no acting. His current body was weak, but pain no longer frightened him. Pain was information. Pain revealed limits. Limits could be expanded. Darius slapped the back of Kael's head. Try not to drop anything. The hunters laughed again. Kael adjusted the straps. Of course. Darius turned away. A faint crease appeared between Celine's brows. Kael had always answered her first. Today, he barely looked at her. That disturbed her more than anger would have. Good. Let uncertainty begin early. The raid party gathered in the courtyard. Darius led the front line. Celine served as healer. 2 shield bearers stood behind him. 3 archers took the rear. Kael walked last beneath the supplies. Their destination was the Rotwood Burrow, a low-ranked dungeon beneath the northern forest. The guild considered it safe. Kael knew better. The surface tunnels contained small venom wolves and moss goblins. Deeper inside slept an iron bear. Beyond that, hidden behind a wall of black roots, lay the corpse garden. No one had discovered it yet. No one except Kael. In his previous life, he found the entrance while searching for a missing potion pouch. He told Darius. Darius claimed the discovery. The guild harvested the corpse garden and earned a fortune. Kael received a copper coin and a slap on the shoulder. This time, he would give them nothing. The northern forest grew darker as the party advanced. Branches knitted together overhead. Rotting leaves covered the ground. The dungeon entrance appeared beneath a twisted oak, its roots wrapped around a stone arch like dead fingers. A blue barrier shimmered across the opening. Garen stopped the party. This is a simple harvest raid. Clear the upper nests. Collect venom sacs and goblin cores, no wandering. His eyes moved to Kael, and the trash touches nothing unless ordered. Kael bowed slightly. Garen entered first. The barrier swallowed him. The others followed. Cold air struck Kael's face as he crossed. The dungeon smelled of wet fur and poison. Faint green crystals illuminated the tunnel walls. Darius drew his sword. Flames crawled along the blade. Stay behind me, Celine. Celine smiled. I always do. Kael watched them. In another life, those words had sounded romantic. Now they sounded like a confession. The first venom wolf appeared around the bend. Its body was lean and black. Green saliva dripped from its teeth. The archers raised their bows. Darius lifted one hand. Leave it. Everyone looked at him. Darius glanced back at Kael. A grin spread across his face. The porter needs experience. Garen laughed. An excellent idea. Celine gave a small gasp. Darius, that is dangerous. It is one weak beast. Darius looked at Kael. Unless our brave porter is frightened. Kael saw the moment exactly as memory preserved it. The same grin, the same laughter. The same torchlight. The same wolf. In his first life, Darius shoved him forward. Kael stumbled. The wolf tore open his thigh. He survived only because Selene healed him, after letting him bleed long enough to beg. The party mocked him for weeks. Kael set down the bags. His hands shook slightly from the strain. Darius mistook it for fear. Go on. Kael drew the chipped knife. The venom wolf growled. Its muscles tightened. Kael lowered his center of gravity. The wolf lunged, fast. Faster than his current body could comfortably track. But Kael did not need comfort. He needed timing. At the last instant, he stepped sideways. The wolf's claws tore his sleeve. Kael drove the knife beneath its jaw. The blade entered shallowly. The wolf twisted. Its shoulder slammed into his chest. Kael hit the wall. Air left his lungs. The hunters laughed. Darius shook his head. Pathetic. The wolf charged again. Kael pushed himself upright. His body screamed. His expression did not change. The wolf opened its jaws. Kael thrust his left arm forward. Teeth sank into flesh. Pain flashed white. Kael stepped closer instead of pulling away. The wolf's eyes widened. Prey was supposed to retreat. Kael buried the knife through its eye. The blade struck bone. He twisted. The wolf shuddered, then collapsed. Silence filled the tunnel. Kael remained kneeling beside the corpse. Blood ran down his arm. Darius's smile had vanished. Garen stared. Selene took one step forward. Kael, your arm? Kael placed his palm against the wolf's neck. A black window appeared. Eligible corpse detected. Venom wolf. Available inherent skills identified. Venom fang. Predator scent. Burst step. Night vision. Select one skill for extraction. Kael's gaze remained lowered. This was the first choice. Venom fang could poison enemies. Predator scent could track creatures. Night vision was useful but common. Burst step allowed the wolf to release stored muscular power in a sudden acceleration. A simple skill, a foundation. Kael selected it. Extraction successful. Burst step acquired. Current compatibility high. Skill integrated. Heat spread through his legs. Muscles tightened. Nerves sharpened. For one breath, the world slowed. Kael almost smiled. Almost. Then he stood and wiped the knife on the wolf's fur. Garen recovered first. Lucky strike, Darius snorted. Anyone can kill a half-starved wolf. Kael bowed his head. You are right. That answer robbed Darius of the argument he wanted. Selene approached and reached for Kael's arm. I should heal you. Kael stepped away, only slightly. Save your mana, Selene froze. Darius glanced at her, then at Kael. Suspicion flickered between them. Kael lifted the bags again. His wounded arm burned under the straps. He welcomed it. The party moved deeper. They encountered two more venom wolves. Darius killed both with wide theatrical slashes. The others praised him. Kael watched the corpses. His system window appeared. But the requirement remained clear. He had contributed nothing to those kills. No extraction. That meant he needed to manipulate the raid. Not fight openly. Not reveal too much. Contribute quietly. The next chamber held moss goblins. Small creatures with bark-covered skin and crude stone blades. 5 emerged from holes in the wall. Darius charged. The shield-bearers locked formation. Arrows flew. Kael remained behind them. One goblin slipped past the front line. It rushed towards Selene. She raised her staff. Kael moved first. Burst step activated. His body shot forward, not far. Not gracefully, but fast enough. He struck the goblin's knee with the supply bag. The creature stumbled. Selene released a blade of light. It pierced the goblin's chest. The corpse fell at Kael's feet. No one noticed the brief black mist entering his palm. Eligible contribution confirmed. Moss Goblin. Available inherent skills identified. Minor camouflage. Rot resistance. Tunnel hearing. Stone grip. Kael selected rot resistance. Extraction successful. His stomach tightened. A bitter taste filled his mouth. The dungeon's toxic air suddenly felt weaker. Not harmless, but tolerable. The system did not merely add skills. It changed his body to endure them. That distinction mattered. Darius glanced back. You nearly got in Selene's way. Kael picked up the fallen bag. My mistake. Selene looked at him strangely. Kael had saved her. Yet he did not wait for praise. He did not even meet her eyes. That was not the Kael she knew. The raid continued. Kael contributed through accidents. A loose stone rolled beneath a goblin's foot. A thrown rope tangled a wolf's leg. A dropped dagger forced a monster to turn. Small actions, invisible actions. Enough for the system. From another moss goblin, he stole tunnel hearing. Sounds expanded. He heard claws scraping stone beyond the next wall. He heard Garen's heartbeat quicken whenever loot appeared. He heard Darius whisper to Celine when they thought the party was distracted. "He is acting strange," Celine answered softly. "He is probably trying to impress us." Darius scoffed. "Then he should know his place." Kael kept walking. His expression remained empty. Inside he laughed. Near midday, the party reached a fork. The left tunnel led to the official nest. The right led toward the Iron Bear. Garen pointed left. "We clear the brood chamber, then return." Kael knew what came next. A rare silver mushroom grew in a crack near the right tunnel. Celine would notice it. Darius would claim it. The mushroom was worth enough to buy a house. But it carried dormant iron spores. Once removed, the scent would awaken the bear below. In his previous life, Kael warned them. Garen accused him of greed. Darius took the mushroom. The Iron Bear attacked during their retreat. 3 hunters died. Kael lost 2 fingers protecting Celine. Darius still received praise for killing the wounded beast. The silver mushroom glimmered. Celine gasped. Darius approached it. Garen's eyes widened. A moonveil cap. Greed transformed every face. Kael looked away. Celine noticed. "Kael, your scavenge skill may help remove it safely." There it was, the cup of poison, offered with a smile. If Kael touched the mushroom, they would force him to accept responsibility for any danger. If it was valuable, Darius would take it. If it was cursed, Kael would bear the cost. Kael stepped back. "My skill only works on dead creatures." A lie. Scavenge could assess organic materials. Celine frowned. "You used it on herbs before." Kael lowered his head. "I am afraid I might damage something so precious." Darius laughed. "At least the trash understands his limitations." He pushed Kael aside and reached for the mushroom. Garen hesitated. "Perhaps we should leave it until a collector arrives." Darius's eyes hardened. "And let another team claim it." That ended the debate. He cut the mushroom free. A faint cloud of metallic dust entered the air. Kael held his breath. Rot resistance burned through his lungs. The others noticed nothing. Darius placed the mushroom in a crystal case. Celine smiled at him. "A treasure on such a simple raid. You truly are blessed." Darius looked at Kael. "Some people are born to receive fortune." Kael smiled faintly. Yes, far below, something enormous opened its eyes. Tunnel hearing carried the sound upward. A deep breath, stone grinding beneath claws. The Iron Bear had awakened. Kael said nothing. They had chosen the prize. They could enjoy the consequence. The party cleared the brood chamber quickly. Garen ordered Kael to gather monster remains. Kael obeyed. He knelt among corpses while the others divided cores and venom sacs. Scavenge activated. Claws, teeth, damaged hides. Worthless scraps. Kael saw a feast. He extracted minor camouflage from one goblin. Then predator scent from a venom wolf. Repeated skill residue detected. Burst step may absorb compatible predatory movement traits. Evolution progress initiated. The system window pulsed. Kael's heartbeat remained calm. Skills could evolve through repeated extraction. He had expected it. Seeing it confirmed made the future even larger. Darius tossed a cracked wolf fang at his feet. "Your share." The hunters laughed. Kael picked it up carefully. "Thank you." Darius smiled. The rich enjoyed gratitude from the people they robbed. The party began the return journey. Behind them, the dungeon trembled. Dust fell from the ceiling. One archer looked back. "What was that?" Garen frowned. "Probably a minor collapse." Kael adjusted the bags. Predator scent filled his nose, with the odor of hot iron and blood. The bear was coming, fast. They reached the narrow bridge chamber when the roar struck. The sound slammed through the tunnel. Torches flickered. One hunter dropped his bow. Garen's face went pale. "That is impossible." The Iron Bear burst through the stone passage. Its body was larger than a carriage. Black metal plates covered its shoulders. Its eyes glowed red. Fresh spores clung to its snout. The moonveil cap's scent had drawn it directly to them. Darius drew his sword. "Formation!" Panic answered him. The shield-bearers barely raised their defenses before the bear struck. One shield folded inward. The man behind it flew across the chamber and hit the wall with a wet crack. Selene screamed. Arrows shattered against the beast's armor. Darius released a wave of flame. The bear crossed its forelegs. Iron plates absorbed most of the attack. Kael dropped the bags and moved toward the edge of the chamber. Not fleeing, positioning. He remembered every part of this fight. The bear's armor was thick. Its throat was vulnerable only when it roared. Its left rear leg carried an old injury. In his first life, he had discovered both facts while being used as bait. Now he watched Garen shove another hunter forward. Hold it! The hunter died beneath one paw. Darius attacked the injured leg. The bear turned. Its claws ripped across his armor. Blood sprayed. Selene rushed to heal him. Kael picked up a broken spear. No one looked at him. Good. The iron bear reared back. Its mouth opened. Kael activated burst step. He shot beneath its flank. The spear drove into the old wound behind its leg. The bear roared and twisted. Darius saw the opening. He leaped. His flaming sword entered the beast's throat. Garen struck from the side. The archers released everything they had. The iron bear collapsed. The chamber shook. Silence followed. Darius stood on the corpse, covered in blood and firelight. Selene stared at him with worshipful eyes. Garen laughed in relief. You killed an iron bear on a low-ranked raid. The guildmaster will reward you greatly. Darius lifted his sword. The surviving hunters cheered. No one looked at Kael. No one saw his hand resting against the bear's damaged leg. Eligible contribution confirmed. Iron Bear. Available inherent skills identified. Ironhide. Crushing strength. Blood rage. Dense bone. Kael did not hesitate. He selected Ironhide. Extraction successful. Skill compatibility exceptional. Rot resistance fusion candidate detected. Minor camouflage fusion candidate detected. Host may develop adaptive defensive trait through continued extraction. A burning pressure spread beneath Kael's skin. His body hardened from the inside. Not visibly. Not yet. But the change was real. The first stone had been placed. Darius climbed down from the corpse. He pointed at Kael. Harvest everything useful. Kael bowed. Of course. The others carried the wounded toward the exit. Darius carried the crystal case containing the Moonveil cap. A treasure that now carried concentrated iron spores. He planned to present it to his clan. Kael knew what would happen. The spores would contaminate the Vane Estate's beast pens. Their prized war mounts would become violently ill. Several would die. The clan would spend a fortune containing the outbreak. In the previous life, Kael had purified the mushroom and prevented that disaster. No one ever learned what he saved them from. This time, he would let the gift bloom. Kael remained behind with the Iron Bear's corpse. Garen shouted from the tunnel, "Do not take too long, trash." Kael waited until their footsteps faded. Then he stood. Predator scent guided him toward the black root wall. Tunnel hearing confirmed emptiness beyond it. Kael pressed his palm against a hidden knot. The roots opened. Cold golden light spilled through the gap. Beyond lay the corpse garden. Ancient monster remains covered the chamber. Winged serpents, crystal beetles, stone apes, creatures dead for centuries. Their cores had decayed. Their materials were useless to ordinary hunters. To Kael, they were a kingdom waiting to be inherited. System windows filled his vision. Eligible ancient remains detected. Residual skills available. Extraction conditions partially satisfied. Scavenge authority may process degraded corpses. Warning. Repeated extraction may cause severe physical strain. Kael stepped into the chamber. The roots closed behind him. He looked across the sea of bones. Then he smiled. Above him, Darius carried poison home while believing it was treasure. Below him, the trash porter stood before enough dead monsters to build the foundation of a god. Kael placed his hand on the nearest corpse. Begin. The first ancient corpse belonged to a crystal beetle. Its shell had collapsed into gray powder. Its core was empty. Its legs snapped when Kael touched them. To any hunter, it was garbage. The system disagreed. Degraded monster remains detected. Residual inherent skill identified. Crystal carapace. Extraction difficulty high. Scavenge authority compensating. Kael pressed his palm against the shattered shell. Black light spread through the cracks. The corpse dissolved. Pain entered his bones. Not sharp pain. Pressure, as if invisible hands were forcing molten glass beneath his skin. Kael clenched his jaw. He did not scream. The crystal beetle's skill fought against Ironhide. One came from living metal. The other came from mineral growth. Their structures collided inside his body. His veins darkened. Blood leaked from his fingertips. The system continued. Crystal carapace acquired. Compatible defensive skills detected. Ironhide, rot resistance. Minor camouflage, fusion available. Kael selected fusion. The chamber vanished beneath a storm of agony. His skin hardened, softened, split, reformed. The protective traits devoured one another, stripping away weaknesses and preserving only useful properties. Ironhide supplied density. Crystal carapace supplied layered structure. Rot resistance supplied adaptation against toxins and decay. Minor camouflage supplied control over surface texture. A new skill emerged, adaptive carapace. Kael opened his eyes. A translucent black sheen covered his forearm. It resembled glass at first, then metal, then ordinary skin. He drew the chipped knife across it. The blade snapped. Kael looked at the broken weapon without emotion. A low-ranked hunter would have celebrated. Kael saw only the beginning. Adaptive carapace could harden against physical damage. With enough evolution, it might resist magic. With enough stolen traits, perhaps curses, perhaps divine weapons, perhaps anything. Kael moved to the next corpse, a stone ape. Its skull had been crushed centuries ago. Residual skill identified, mountain grip. Extraction successful. The skill entered his hands. His fingers thickened slightly. Tendons strengthened. Kael lifted a stone fragment that should have required several men. He held it with one hand, then set it down gently. Strength without control was noise, he continued. A winged serpent granted wind sense. A blind cave lizard granted vibration sight. A bone jackal granted marrow renewal. A dead flame moth granted heat absorption. Each extraction tore at his body. Each integration rebuilt it. Blood covered his mouth. His knees shook. His heartbeat slowed until entire breaths passed between pulses. The system issued warnings. Host condition critical. Further extraction may cause organ failure. Kael ignored them. In his first life, he had crawled through poison while his lungs dissolved. He had eaten rotten flesh because starvation hurt more. He had slept beside monster corpses to steal their warmth. This pain had purpose. Purpose made suffering easy. He touched another skeleton. Residual skill identified. Shadow burrow. Extraction successful. The chamber darkened around him. For a moment, Kael felt his body sink into his own shadow. Not fully. Only a finger's depth. The skill was incomplete, degraded. Yet its potential made his eyes sharpen. Movement through darkness. Concealment. Ambush. Escape. A perfect skill for someone who intended to build power without being seen. Repeated compatible traits detected. Burst step. Shadow burrow. Predator scent. Wind sense. Tunnel hearing. Vibration sight. Fusion available. Kael selected it. His senses shattered. Every sound became thunder. Every scent became poison. Air currents cut across his skin like blades. Vibrations from the dungeon floor entered his teeth. The overload nearly drove him unconscious. Then the skills folded inward. They aligned. Movement and perception became one instinct. A new skill formed. Phantom hunt. The world became clearer. Kael felt the exact shape of the chamber without turning his head. He sensed insects crawling beneath the soil. He heard water moving behind the far wall. He detected the raid party above, distant but not gone. Darius's steps were uneven from his wound. Celine's staff tapped against stone. Garen cursed the dead hunters for slowing their return. Kael also sensed something else as a faint pulse beneath the corpse garden. Alive, hidden, hungry. He followed it. At the center of the chamber stood a mound of bones wrapped in pale roots. Kael pushed them aside. A small black egg rested underneath. Its shell was covered in silver cracks. The creature within had not hatched, not for centuries. It survived by feeding on the remaining essence of the corpse garden. Kael remembered the egg. In his previous life, the guild found it after excavating the chamber. They sold it to the Royal Beast Academy. The egg hatched into a void drake, a rare monster capable of swallowing magic. The Academy tried to tame it. The drake killed its handlers and escaped. Years later, it became a calamity that destroyed 3 border cities before Darius claimed the final blow. Kael placed one hand on the shell. The creature inside reacted. A tiny presence struck his mind. Fear, rage, hunger. It expected violence. Kael sent no comfort. No warmth, only certainty. Submit and live. Resist and become material. The egg trembled. A black eye opened beneath the shell. Contract candidate detected. Ancient void drake. Bloodline damaged. Vitality critical. Host may establish dominant bond. Kael accepted. A thin mark burned into his palm. The egg absorbed a drop of his blood. The creature's resistance faded. Dominant bond established. Kael lifted the egg. It was warm. Faintly breathing. He could hatch it now. That would be foolish. A void drake was too conspicuous, too valuable, too difficult to explain. Kael placed it inside the deepest section of the corpse garden and surrounded it with intact bones rich in residual essence. The system recognized his intent. Territory function available. Host may designate concealed lair. Kael looked around. The corpse garden was isolated, protected by black roots, unknown to the guild, filled with resources. He designated it. Concealed lair established. Basic functions unlocked. Essence filtration. Intrusion detection. Bound creature nourishment. Storage preservation. Kael paused. The system was growing with him, not merely granting skills, adapting to his choices. He placed the broken fang Darius had given him near the egg, a worthless reward, a symbol of mockery. The void drake absorbed the remaining venom essence from it. Its silver cracks glowed. Kael smiled faintly. Even insults had value when properly processed. He returned to the corpses. By the time he finished, only dust remained around the edges of the chamber. His body carried more than a dozen stolen traits. The weakest had been devoured. The strongest had evolved. His current abilities formed a compact foundation. Adaptive carapace protected him. Phantom hunt sharpened movement and perception. Marrow renewal repaired internal damage. Heat absorption consumed fire. Mountain grip strengthened his hands. Shadow burrow waited for further evolution. Kael had gained more in one hidden chamber than many hunters gained in a lifetime. Yet he still felt weak. That judgment was not modesty. It was accurate. Darius's clan possessed high-ranked combat arts. The church commanded purification magic. The royal family controlled relics. Beyond them waited monsters capable of erasing cities. Kael's revenge required more than strength. It required territory, wealth, information, people. He needed an empire no one could see until it was too large to destroy. Kael left the corpse garden through a narrow tunnel leading outside the dungeon. In his previous life, he had discovered this passage months later. It opened beneath a dead willow in the northern forest. He emerged as rain began to fall. His clothing was torn. Blood covered his chest. His body looked exhausted. Perfect. He returned to the official entrance and waited beside the stones. The raid party appeared shortly afterward. Garen saw him and stopped. "You are alive?" Kael lowered his eyes. "I became lost while harvesting the bear." Darius limped forward. His face darkened. "You abandoned the party?" Kael let his shoulders tremble. "I heard something moving in the tunnel. I panicked." The surviving hunters laughed with relief. There was the coward they remembered. Garen struck Kael across the face. The blow would once have knocked him down. Adaptive carapace hardened beneath his skin. Kael allowed his head to turn with the impact. He even stumbled. Garen's hand throbbed afterward. He hit it. "Useless dog." Kael touched his cheek. Celine examined him. "You are covered in blood. Most of it belongs to the bear." A clean answer. Plausible. Darius looked toward the dungeon entrance. "Did you find anything valuable?" Kael opened his rope bag. Broken claws, dusty bones, cracked scales. "Trash," scoffed. "I should not have asked." He turned away. Kael watched the crystal case hanging from his belt. The moonveil cap continued releasing invisible spores. The poison had already entered Darius's clothing. His armor, his wound, his carriage. The disaster was traveling home with him. Kael smiled inwardly. The guild returned to the city near sunset. News of the Iron Bear spread quickly. Darius received applause before he even entered the courtyard. Garen described the battle. He enlarged every detail. Darius had faced the beast alone. Darius had protected the party. Darius had landed the decisive strike. Kael's spear wound was never mentioned. The dead hunters became noble sacrifices. The truth became whatever benefited the powerful. Kael stood near the wall while servants carried away his bags. The guildmaster emerged from the upper hall. Magnus Blackfang, tall, gray-haired, wrapped in a coat made from wyvern leather. In the previous life, Magnus had signed Kael's execution order. He had known the treason charges were false. He simply valued Darius more. Magnus embraced Darius like a son. "You have brought honor to the guild," Darius smiled. "I only did what was necessary." Celine stood beside him. Her expression shone with pride. Magnus ordered a celebration. The dead hunters' families would receive small compensation. Darius would receive a rare weapon. Garen would receive command credit. Celine would receive guild contribution points. Kael received nothing. That was expected. Then Darius lifted the crystal case. "I also found this." Magnus's eyes widened. The moonveil cap glowed beneath the glass. Greed entered the courtyard. Magnus reached for it. Kael spoke quietly. "Perhaps it should be examined first." Every head turned. Darius's smile vanished. "What did you say?" Kael lowered his gaze. "The dungeon changed after it was removed. I thought there might be danger." Garen laughed. "The coward imagines curses everywhere." Magnus inspected the mushroom. "It appears pure." Kael knew the guildmaster's appraisal skill could identify market value, not dormant biological threats. Darius stepped closer. "Are you claiming my treasure is contaminated?" Kael shook his head. "I would never question your judgment." The wording was precise. He had questioned nothing. He had warned them publicly. Later, no one could claim ignorance. Darius held the case toward him. "Then prove your loyalty. Touch it." Celine's eyes sharpened. The crowd waited. Kael understood the trap. If he refused, he looked jealous. If he touched it, they could blame him for contamination. Kael smiled weakly. "My skill may damage it." Darius pushed the case against Kael's chest. "You said that before." The glass cracked. A small cloud of iron spores escaped. Adaptive carapace sealed Kael's pores. Rot resistance neutralized what entered his lungs. The spores drifted across Darius, Magnus, and Garen. Kael stepped back in apparent panic. "I am sorry." Darius seized his collar. "You break what you cannot possess," the courtyard murmured. Kael looked frightened. Inside, he watched poison settle upon the guildmaster's expensive coat. Magnus raised one hand. "Enough. The case can be replaced." Darius released Kael. Magnus ordered an appraiser to carry the mushroom into the guild vault. The spores went with it. The vault stored monster eggs, rare herbs, preserved organs, and alchemical ingredients. By morning, half of them would be infected. By the following night, the guild would lose a fortune. Kael had not caused it. He had even warned them. That made the result sweeter. The celebration began. Kael slipped away. No one stopped him. Trash did not need permission to disappear. He crossed the lower market and entered a narrow alley behind an abandoned apothecary. An old woman sat beneath a patched canopy. Her name was Mira Voss. To most people, she was a failed herbalist selling bitter medicine. Kael knew her true identity. Mira had once served as the royal poison master. She vanished after refusing to create a plague for a corrupt prince. In his previous life, she died during a robbery. Kael discovered her journals afterward and learned enough from them to survive several dungeon toxins. Now she looked at his torn clothes and clicked her tongue. "You smell like a grave." Kael placed a sealed pouch on her table. Inside lay powder scraped from the crystal beetle before extraction. Mira opened it. Her old eyes sharpened. "Where did you find this?" "A place no one else knows." She tested the powder between two needles. Her hands began to tremble. "This is ancient prism shell." Kael sat across from her. "Can you refine it?" Mira studied him. "You cannot afford my price." Kael placed another item on the table. A small gland taken from the venom wolf. Not valuable by guild standards, but it carried traces altered by his system. Mira smelled it. Her expression changed again. This venom is unusually stable. I can bring more. How much? As much as you can process. Suspicion entered her face. What do you want? Kael answered without hesitation. Money. Medicine. Silence. Mira smiled for the first time. A sensible young man. They made a contract. Mira would refine his materials through private buyers. Kael would supply rare monster remnants. Neither would ask unnecessary questions. The partnership began with no trust. That was preferable. Trust created expectations. Mutual profit created discipline. Kael left with a pouch of silver and 3 recovery tonics. It was not much, but it was clean capital, the first coin of his hidden empire. Over the following weeks, Kael became invisible. He attended guild raids as a porter. He bowed when insulted. He carried supplies. He accepted broken scraps as payment. Every expedition became a harvest. A claw strike weakened by Darius. An arrow wound created by another hunter. A monster distracted by Celine's magic. Kael contributed with tiny movements, a thrown stone, a loosened strap, a blade placed where a creature would step. The system recognized each contribution. Skills entered him. Poison glands strengthened rot resistance. Stone hides fed adaptive carapace. Predatory muscles fed phantom hunt. Regenerative creatures fed marrow renewal. The weak skills vanished into stronger ones. The strong skills evolved. Kael never displayed more than ordinary reflexes. When he moved too quickly, he pretended to trip. When a blow failed to injure him, he hid the undamaged skin beneath blood. When he sensed danger, he let another hunter announce it first. Darius continued mocking him. Celine continued pretending kindness. Garen continued using him. Every insult protected his secret. At night, Kael returned to the corpse garden. The void drake hatched beneath black roots. It was no larger than a cat. Its scales absorbed light. Its silver eyes reflected nothing. Kael named it Umbra. The creature did not behave like a pet. It bit him on the first night. Adaptive carapace broke its teeth. Kael held it against the ground until it stopped struggling. After that, Umbra obeyed. Not from affection. From recognition. Predators understood hierarchy better than humans. Kael fed it monster cores the guild considered damaged. Umbra devoured them. Its body grew. Its bloodline stabilized. The lair expanded. Black roots responded to the drake's void aura and opened new chambers. Kael stored materials there. Weapons, medicines, food, maps, coins. Mira introduced him to smugglers, exiled alchemists and mercenaries with no loyalty to noble houses. Kael did not recruit them with speeches. He offered payment, protection. Results. A crippled blacksmith named Torin forged weapons from monster scraps. Kael supplied. A former guild accountant named Alara created false ledgers and hidden trade routes. A pair of orphan scouts mapped tunnels beneath the city in exchange for food and training. None knew the full scale of Kael's power. Each knew only their task. That was enough. Within months, a nameless underground network began moving goods through the northern district. Rare medicine appeared where official guilds created shortages. Monster materials reached craftsmen without noble taxes. Desperate hunters bought equipment on credit. Debts became contracts. Contracts became loyalty. People called the hidden supplier the Hollow Crown. No one knew who controlled it. Kael liked the name. A crown unseen was harder to steal. Meanwhile, House Vane suffered. The infected war beasts tore through their pens. Several prized mounts died. The clan blamed the guild. The guild blamed the appraisers. The appraisers blamed unknown dungeon corruption. The Moonveil cap rotted inside the vault and contaminated everything around it. Magnus lost a fortune. Garen lost authority. Darius lost face. He responded by becoming more violent. At the guild, he struck servants for minor mistakes. During raids, he took greater risks to prove his strength. Celine soothed him. She whispered that jealous people wanted to diminish his glory. Kael watched from the background. The poison was working exactly as expected. Not the sprite. Darius believed the Moonveil cap had been a blessing stolen by bad luck. He never understood that the treasure itself had carried ruin. That was the pattern of his life. He seized whatever shone, then blamed others when it cut him. One evening, Kael returned to the lair and found Umbra standing before a stone gate newly exposed by the roots. The void drake had grown large enough to reach his waist. Silver lines covered its wings. It growled at the gate. The system appeared. Hidden domain detected. Ancient trial chamber. Entry requirement satisfied. Adaptive skill foundation confirmed. Bound void bloodline confirmed. Territory authority confirmed. Kael placed his hand on the gate. It opened. Beyond it stood rows of black pillars surrounding a throne carved from monster bone. At the center floated a sealed sphere. Inside burned a small white flame. Not fire, soul essence, Kael approached. The system trembled. Rare authority fragment detected. Skillforge. Allows host to shape, combine, refine, and imprint acquired monster abilities. Kael reached into the sphere. The white flame entered his chest. Every skill inside him reacted. Adaptive carapace formed new layers. Phantom hunt split into movement patterns. Marrow renewal learned to distribute recovery. Heat absorption developed channels through his arms. Skills were no longer fixed instincts. They became materials. Kael could design how they functioned. He could build techniques no monster had ever possessed. He extended one hand. Heat absorption gathered warmth from the chamber. Mountain grip compressed it. Phantom hunt guided the release. A thin black flame appeared above his palm. It made no light. Umbra backed away. The flame touched a stone pillar. The pillar vanished into ash. Kael closed his hand. The flame disappeared. A weapon born from stolen traits. A skill created from skills. His first personal technique. He named it Void Ember. The system responded. Unique technique registered. Skill Forge authority strengthened. Territory evolution available. Kael looked at the bone throne. He sat. Black roots spread across the floor. Storage chambers expanded. Training rooms opened. The lair connected to deeper tunnels beneath the city. Umbra lowered its head. Far above, nobles drank wine. Guild masters traded favors. Darius enjoyed false praise. Selene still believed Kael remained useful, loyal, and weak. They had no idea that beneath their feet stood a fortress built from everything they had thrown away. No idea that the porter they mocked now controlled medicine, weapons, information, and hidden routes through the capital. No idea that monsters were no longer merely his prey. They were his teachers, his armor, his army, his inheritance. Kael rested one hand on the throne. The hollow crown had gained its king. He smiled into the darkness. Above him, his enemies continued dreaming. Below them, his empire opened its eyes. The disaster began beneath the royal capital. No warning bell rang. No prophet screamed in the streets. No army crossed the border. The first sign was a dead rat crawling out of a sewer with a second mouth growing from its spine. A butcher found it before dawn. He crushed it beneath his boot. Black blood touched the stones. By sunrise, every animal in the market district was screaming. Horses tore through their stalls. Dogs bit their own legs. Birds fell from the sky, with wet human voices spilling from their throats. Then the ground opened. The central avenue split from the palace gates to the southern wall. Buildings folded inward. Stone towers vanished into a chasm filled with red mist. From below came the sound of chains dragging across bone. Kael heard it from the hollow crown. He sat on the monster bone throne while maps trembled against the walls. Umbra rose beside him. The void drake's scales tightened. Every creature in the underground fortress reacted at once. Caged beasts lowered their heads. Alchemical flames turned black. The roots covering the ceiling recoiled as though burned. A system window appeared. Catastrophic dungeon rupture detected. Abyssal labyrinth fragment emerging. Devouring monarch residue confirmed. Temporal deviation detected. Kael's eyes narrowed. This should not have happened yet. In his first life, the abyssal labyrinth opened years later. Darius and the royal guilds entered it after months of preparation. They found the devouring monarch's corpse at the deepest level. They stole the heart of devouring. They betrayed Kael. Now the dungeon was forcing its way into the capital long before history demanded it. Something had changed. Kael looked inward. The answer was obvious. He had changed. Every stolen skill, every altered death, every hidden transaction, every monster removed from its proper place. The future was no longer following the old road. Good. Kael had never planned to walk it twice. Alara rushed into the throne chamber. The former guild accountant had abandoned silk dresses for dark leather and hidden blades. Fear drained the color from her face, but her voice remained steady. The upper routes are collapsing. The southern tunnels are flooded with red fog. Scouts report monsters appearing inside the noble district. How many evacuation lines remain? 3. Close the eastern passage. Alara stared. That route leads beneath the guild quarter. Thousands will be trapped. Kael looked at the map. The eastern passage also led directly toward the Hollow Crown's supply vaults. If left open, corrupted monsters could enter the fortress. He answered without hesitation. Close it. Alara lowered her head. Yes, she turned to leave. Kael stopped her. Move our contracted families through the western route first. Craftsmen second. Alchemists third. Mercenaries last. What about civilians without contracts? If there is space, take them, and if there is not? Kael looked toward the trembling ceiling. Then there is not. Alara did not argue. That was why she remained useful. Above them, the city entered hell. The first monsters that emerged were pale crawlers with human hands. They poured from wells. They climbed walls. They squeezed through windows and dragged sleeping families into the streets. Their mouths opened across their stomachs. Every scream they swallowed made them larger. City guards formed lines near the palace square. The crawlers broke through them in moments. Then came bone knights. Ancient armor hung from skeletal bodies, wrapped in black muscle. Their swords spread decay through every wound. Men struck by them aged into dust before hitting the ground. The church rang purification bells. Priests raised barriers. The red mist ate through holy light. Panic moved faster than the monsters. Nobles ordered soldiers to protect private estates. Merchants locked storehouses while people starved outside. Guilds demanded payment before accepting rescue missions. The royal family closed the inner palace gates. The poor flooded the streets. The rich fled toward fortified towers. Every layer of civilization peeled away in a single morning. House Vane reacted with pride. Its war banners rose above the western district. Darius stood on the family fortress wall in polished red armor. Flames covered his sword. Hundreds of hunters watched him. Selene stood behind him in white robes. Her healing staff glowed. Darius raised one fist. This is the moment legends are born. The hunters cheered. He believed it. For months, his reputation had suffered. The infected beast pens, the ruined guild vault, failed raids. Whispers that his strength had been exaggerated. Now the capital burned. Darius saw an opportunity. A great hero required a great disaster. He ordered the fortress gates opened, not to shelter civilians, to create an audience. Refugees crowded the avenue below. Darius leaped from the wall and landed among a pack of pale crawlers. His flames exploded. Several monsters died. The crowd screamed his name. Selene healed wounded hunters where everyone could see. Guild scribes recorded every movement. For a brief moment, Darius looked like the hero he imagined himself to be. Then the red mist thickened. A horn sounded from beneath the city. The surviving crawlers stopped moving. Their bodies split open. Black threads pulled them together. Flesh twisted. Bones fused. A creature taller than the fortress wall rose from the street. It had dozens of arms. Hundreds of mouths covered its chest. At its center, a single golden eye opened. Abyssal choir beast. Darius stared upward. His confidence cracked. The monster screamed. Every mouth released a different voice. Children. Dying soldiers. People it had consumed only moments earlier. The sound struck the hunters like a hammer. Some dropped their weapons. Others stabbed their own ears. The choir beast raised one hand. Darius attacked first. He launched a river of flame toward its eye. The fire struck. The monster swallowed it. Every mouth on its body began breathing Darius's flames. The street became an ocean of red. Hunters burned inside their armor. Refugees crushed one another against the fortress gates. Darius landed hard. His face had gone white. Selene raised a shield of holy light. The reflected fire blackened it instantly. Darius! He heard fear in her voice. Not admiration, fear. That sound made him angrier than the monster. He charged again. The choir beast struck him with the back of one hand. Darius flew through the fortress wall. Stone buried him. The crowd fell silent. Their hero had vanished in a single blow. The monster stepped forward. House Vane's fortress shook. Clan elders began shouting conflicting orders. Some demanded a retreat. Others ordered servants to hold the gates. Several tried to escape through private tunnels. Those tunnels were already full. Noble relatives clawed at one another. Children were trampled beneath jeweled boots. Servants locked their masters outside storerooms. Hunters deserted. The great Vane clan began devouring itself before the monster even entered. Selene pulled Darius from the rubble. Blood covered his face. His left arm bent incorrectly. He stared at the choir beast. No, the word came out weak. This is not possible. Selene poured healing light into him. We need to retreat. Darius seized her wrist. She had no answer. The guild district was burning. The palace was sealed. The city gates had collapsed. Every place they believed permanent was failing at once. Elsewhere, Magnus Blackfang barricaded himself inside the guild vault. He surrounded himself with rare weapons, medicine, and gold. Garen begged to enter. Magnus refused. Minutes later, infected monster organs inside the vault awakened. Black tendrils crawled from broken jars. Magnus screamed behind the sealed door. Garen listened, then ran. He reached the courtyard only to find surviving guild members fighting over horses. One man stabbed another for a saddle. A healer poisoned her own team to steal their supplies. The guild that had once mocked Kael as worthless collapsed into animals. Garen tried to command them. No one listened. A bone knight entered the courtyard. Garen pushed a young porter toward it and fled. The porter died. The bone knight followed Garen anyway. At House Arden, Lucian stood beside their father in the ancestral hall. The family guards had abandoned the outer walls. The servants had stolen food. The main gate shook under repeated impacts. Lord Arden paced before the family crest. This cannot be happening. Lucian clutched his silver sword. Darius will stop it. His father turned. Then why has he not come? Lucian had no answer. He thought of Kael, the useless son, the porter, the shame they had erased. For months, Kael had stopped sending money home. He had stopped asking for approval. He had stopped appearing at family dinners. No one cared at first. Then small problems began. House Arden's medicine suppliers vanished. Its craftsmen accepted other patrons. Its debts were purchased by unknown agents. Its influence shrank. Lucian blamed bad luck. Lord Arden blamed enemies. Neither imagined the trash they discarded had built the network tightening around their throats. The gate exploded. Pale crawlers entered. Lord Arden shoved Lucian forward. Protect your family. Lucian turned slowly. For the first time, he understood that his father's love ended where danger began. The revelation came too late. Beneath the city, Kael walked through the western evacuation route. People pressed against the tunnel walls as he passed. Craftsmen, healers, smugglers, mercenaries, people who owed the Hollow Crown money, people who supplied it, people who believed its hidden ruler could protect them. None knew Kael's public identity. They knew only the black mask covering his face and the dark cloak moving behind him. Umbra followed in silence. The void drake had grown larger than a warhorse. Its wings brushed the tunnel ceiling. Alara approached. The contracted districts are secure. The western gate will not hold much longer. How many monsters? Too many. Kael looked toward the surface. Phantom hunt spread through stone and soil. He sensed thousands of moving bodies. Crawlers, bone knights, mutated beasts. Worse things still climbing upward. At the center of the rupture, far below the capital, something enormous pulsed. The devouring monarch was not alive, but its residue had awakened. A fragment of hunger without reason. It was pulling dungeon matter into the city. If left alone, the rupture would expand until the entire capital became part of the abyssal labyrinth. Alara watched him. Can the fortress survive? Yes. Relief entered her eyes. Kael continued. The city relief died. What will you do? Kael looked at Umbra. Harvest. He climbed toward the surface. The first breach point opened beneath an abandoned warehouse. A pack of bone knights waited outside. Kael stepped into daylight. The city was almost unrecognizable. Smoke covered the sky. Towers leaned over streets filled with bodies. The palace barrier flickered in the distance. The choir beasts' voices echoed from the western district. A bone knight charged. Kael did not draw a weapon. Adaptive carapace spread across his hand. Mountain grip compressed. Void ember formed. He struck the knight's chest with one finger. Black fire entered the armor. The creature collapsed into ash. The other bone knights attacked together. Kael activated Phantom Hunt. He vanished between shadows. One step. One corpse. Another step. Another corpse. Black flames flashed without sound. Within seconds, the street was empty. The system opened extraction windows. Bone armor. Soul echo. Death resistance. Kael selected what he needed. Skill Forge devoured the rest. His adaptive carapace absorbed bone armor. Marrow renewal absorbed death resistance. Phantom Hunt consumed soul echo and gained the ability to sense spiritual residue. Power moved through him in controlled waves. No waste, no celebration. Umbra consumed the fallen cores. The drake's body expanded. Silver lines across its wings brightened. Kael advanced toward the western district. Monsters filled the streets. He killed them without slowing. Pale crawlers lunged from rooftops. Void ember erased them. A corrupted giant swung a stone pillar. Kael caught it with one hand and crushed its skull with the broken end. Winged parasites attacked from above. Umbra swallowed them in black mist. People hiding inside buildings watched through cracks. They saw a masked man walking through the apocalypse like a king inspecting property. Rumors spread immediately. The hollow crown had appeared. The hidden ruler beneath the capital was real. A dark sovereign was killing monsters the royal guilds could not face. Kael did not care what name they used. Fear could build loyalty faster than kindness. At the Vain Fortress, the choir beast tore open the main gate. Darius stood behind a line of surviving hunters. His arm had been healed poorly. His sword shook. The crowd that once cheered now stared at him with hatred. "You said you could protect us. My daughter died because you opened the gates. Do something!" Darius looked at their faces. They had adored him earlier. Now they demanded his blood. He raised his sword. Silence. No one obeyed. A stone struck his armor. Then another. Selene backed away from him. Darius noticed. "You are Levi cannot defeat it. You said you believed in me." Selene's expression twisted. "I believed you were strong." The words cut deeper than any blade. Darius stared. For years they had built their relationship upon performance. His strength, her purity, his glory, her devotion. The moment strength vanished, devotion followed. The choir beast entered the courtyard. Every mouth opened. Darius turned toward it. His knees shook. The great hero stepped backward. Then Kael landed between them. His black cloak settled across stones. Umbra descended behind him. The void drake's wings covered the courtyard in darkness. Everyone froze. Darius stared at the masked figure. Selene stopped breathing. The choir beast roared. Kael raised one hand. Quiet. Void ember condensed above his palm. Not a flame now. A black sphere smaller than a coin. Skill Forge tightened heat absorption, mountain grip, and void essence into a single point. The choir beast attacked. Hundreds of arms struck together. Kael released the sphere. It crossed the courtyard without sound. It entered the monster's golden eye. For one heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the entire choir beast folded inward. Its flesh compressed. Its mouth screamed. Its enormous body shrank around the black point. Arms twisted. Bones shattered. The monster collapsed smaller and smaller, until only a dark crystal remained floating above the ground. Kael caught it. The courtyard remained silent. The creature that had destroyed an army had vanished in one strike. Hunters dropped their weapons. Refugees fell to their knees. Clan elders stared with open mouths. Selene's face lost all color. Darius looked at Kael as if seeing the shape of death. The system appeared. Catastrophic entity defeated. Abyssal choir core acquired. Unique skill available. Skill chorus. Allows stolen abilities to operate simultaneously without mutual interference. Kael selected it. Power moved through every skill inside him. Adaptive carapace hardened. Phantom Hunt widened. Void ember stabilized. Marrow renewal accelerated. For the first time, his abilities no longer waited in sequence. They existed together. A complete predatory system. Kael turned toward the city center. The deeper pulse beneath the capital intensified. The choir beast had only been a herald. The true rupture remained. Darius found his voice. "Who are you?" Kael looked over one shoulder. The mask hid his face. But Darius saw the eyes. Cold, familiar, impossible. Kael spoke softly. "A porter." Darius stopped breathing. Celine's staff slipped from her hand. Around them, the crowd began to understand. The trash they mocked, the weak man they used, the nameless body they ordered around. He had been standing beneath them all along, not crawling, growing. Kael walked away while terror spread behind him. The monsters in the city had awakened. So had the truth, and truth, unlike mercy, did not arrive gently. The royal palace fell before sunset. Its golden barriers shattered beneath the pressure rising from the abyss. The sound rolled across the capital like the cracking of the sky. Priests collapsed around the palace walls. Royal guards abandoned their posts. Nobles tore jewels from their own clothing and offered them to anyone with a horse. No one accepted. Gold had become heavier than food. Titles had become thinner than paper. Names that once opened every door now invited robbery. Kael crossed the palace avenue while the final towers burned. Umbra moved beside him. The void drake had grown again after consuming the choir beast's residue. Its wings dragged darkness across the streets. Monsters fled from its scent. The few that did not flee became ash. Behind Kael marched the forces of the Hollow Crown. Not an army in polished armor. Something more useful. Mercenaries who had been paid on time. Craftsmen whose families had been sheltered. Hunters who had received medicine when noble guilds refused them. Smugglers who knew every hidden road beneath the city. Alchemists carrying poisons. Scouts carrying maps. People bound by debt, profit, survival, and fear. They did not chant Kael's name. They did not need to love him. They followed because following him worked. The palace gates stood open. Bodies covered the steps. Inside the throne hall, the royal family argued over the last evacuation carriage. The king shouted that his bloodline must survive. The crown prince shouted that the king was too old to matter. The queen offered the guards estates that no longer existed. The youngest prince stabbed his brother in the back. Kael entered while the blade was still inside him. Everyone turned. The king stared at the black mask. "You." Kael walked past the dying prince. The king raised both hands. "We can reward you." Kael looked at the throne. Massive. Golden, useless. The king continued quickly. "Land, rank, a royal title. Whatever you desire." Kael sat on the throne. The hall became silent. Umbra curled around its base. The hollow crown spread along the walls. Kael rested one elbow on the armrest. "You are offering me what I already own." The king's face twitched. "This palace belongs to the royal bloodline." Kael glanced at the broken windows, then commanded the abyss to leave. The king said nothing. Outside, the city shook again. A column of red mist burst from the central chasm. Within it, something began to rise. Not a body, a shape made from hunger. The residue of the devouring monarch gathered bones, flesh, armor, broken spells, and human fear into itself. A crown of mouths formed above the city. Abyssal chains spread through the streets. Everything they touched withered. The system appeared before Kael. Devouring authority fragment approaching completion. Host possesses compatible system. Warning. Contact may trigger authority conflict. Possible outcomes: assimilation, mutual destruction. Kael stood. The king crawled forward. "Save us." Kael looked down at him. "You closed the palace gates." The king's lips trembled. "I had to protect the kingdom." "You protected a room." Kael stepped over him. The royal family remained alive behind him. For now, he preferred witnesses. The central square had become a crater. At its center floated the devouring crown. Millions of teeth moved inside its black shape. Voices poured from it. Some belonged to monsters. Some belonged to the dead. One voice belonged to Kael. His voice from the execution arena. "Lived as trash. Die like trash." The fragment had tasted his memory through the system. It used pain as bait. Kael entered the crater alone. Umbra growled behind him. He raised one hand. "Stay." The drake obeyed. The devouring crown descended. Black chains struck Kael from every direction. Adaptive carapace hardened. Skill chorus activated. Phantom Hunt mapped every trajectory. Marrow renewal repaired internal fractures before pain fully formed. Void Ember burned through the first chains. More replaced them. Each chain carried a stolen skill. Frost, decay, gravity, sound, poison. The crown had devoured countless creatures across centuries. It released everything at once. Kael smiled. At last, a worthy corpse that had not yet realized it was dead. The battle erased the square. Buildings collapsed outward. Black fire met rivers of acid. Gravity crushed stone into glass. Sound waves tore clouds apart. The crown grew larger with every spell it consumed. Kael allowed it. He watched, learned, measured. The monster believed hunger meant strength. It swallowed everything indiscriminately. That was its flaw. Kael stole with purpose. The crown attacked with a spear of condensed souls. Kael caught it between both hands. Mountain grip locked. Heat absorption stripped away burning essence. Phantom Hunt separated spiritual frequencies. Skill Forge opened them. The spear broke into hundreds of stolen fragments. The system flooded his vision. Soul Pierce. Memory Rot. Spirit Chains. Kael selected nothing. He activated Skill Chorus. Every existing ability inside him began consuming the fragments. Not as separate skills, as material. Adaptive Carapace learned to block spiritual damage. Phantom Hunt learned to track intent before movement. Marrow Renewal expanded into complete bodily restoration. Void Ember gained the ability to burn stolen authority. The crown screamed. For the first time, something was eating it back. Kael stepped forward. The crown released Darius' fire. Selene's holy light. Magnus's appraisal sight. Garen's brute force. Lucian's sword aura. Skills copied from everyone infected by the rupture. Kael walked through them. Darius's flame entered his palm and vanished. Selene's light struck his chest and shattered. Magnus's sight failed to read him. Garen's force broke against his skin. Lucian's aura bent around his throat. Kael reached the center of the crown. Inside floated a black heart, the heart of devouring. The same relic that had caused his death. The same treasure Selene had stolen from his hands. History had brought it to him early. This time, no sword entered his back. No one stood close enough to betray him. Kael placed one hand on the heart. The devouring crown shrieked through the entire city. Authority conflict initiated. The world disappeared. Kael stood again in the execution arena. Hooks pierced his ribs. The crowd laughed. Darius raised the dagger. Selene whispered beside him. You should have stayed inside the dungeon. The system waited. The devouring heart offered him a choice without words. Release the anger, forget the pain, become pure hunger. Consume without memory, rule without self. Kael looked at the arena, then laughed, not loudly, not wildly. A quiet laugh. The kind that made the false world tremble. You misunderstood me. The chains tightened. Kael continued. I never wanted to forget. His right hand closed around the hook beneath his ribs. He pulled it free. Blood poured down his body. I kept every word. He tore the second hook from his arm. I remembered every face. The crowd stopped laughing. Kael landed on the arena floor. His wounds closed. Black fire spread beneath his feet. I do not need hunger to give me purpose. The execution stands burned. I brought my own. He crushed the illusion. Back in the crater, the heart of devouring cracked. The system surged. Devouring authority defeated. Authority available for assimilation. Kael accepted. The heart entered his chest. Every stolen skill inside him bowed. Monster skill theft evolved. Sovereign devourer authority awakened. Host may steal inherent skills, bloodlines, resistances, instincts, and authorities. Host may erase ownership. Host may grant refined skills to bound followers. Host may forge new bloodlines. No known upper limit. The devouring crown collapsed. The red mist vanished. Abyssal chains turned to dust. Across the capital, corrupted monsters froze. Kael raised one hand. Their skills left their bodies. Claws softened, armor cracked. Venom dried. Magic went silent. Thousands of creatures collapsed at once. One gesture, one city saved. No cheering came at first. Only silence. Then people began falling to their knees. Not because they loved him. because every instinct in their bodies told them they stood before something above kings. Kael returned to the palace. Darius waited in the throne hall. He had dragged himself there through the ruined streets. His red armor was broken. One eye had swollen shut. His sword was gone. Selene crawled beside him. Her white robes were gray with blood. Lucian followed them. Behind Lucian came Lord Arden. Garen staggered in last with a rotting wound across his chest. Magnus was not among them. The guildmaster had died inside the vault he valued more than people. The royal family remained pressed against the wall. Kael sat on the throne. Alara placed a glass of dark wine in his hand. He tasted it. Darius stared. Recognition had destroyed what remained of his pride. Kael. No one in the hall breathed. Kael removed the mask. Selene covered her mouth. Lucian stepped backward. Lord Arden's knees failed. Garen whispered a curse. Kael looked exactly like the porter they had mocked, but the room bent around him. Shadow gathered beneath the throne. Umbra rested beside his feet. Every person present understood that the weak man had never been weak. Not when it mattered. Darius crawled forward. His nails scraped gold from the floor. "We were brothers." Kael drank from the glass. "No." Darius's voice cracked. "We fought together. You stood behind me while monsters tore me apart. I was young. You were cruel. I made mistakes." Kael smiled. Darius began shaking. Kael repeated the words from the arena. "You were born trash. You lived as trash. And today you will finally die like trash." Darius's face collapsed. He remembered the exact sentence, the final insult before Kael's death. "How do you know that?" Kael did not answer. Selene crawled past Darius. She reached the first step beneath the throne. Tears ran through the dirt on her face. "Kael, please." He looked at her. She had once been able to control him with a softened voice. Now each word sounded small. "I loved you." Kael tilted the wine. Red liquid moved inside the glass. "You loved protection." Selene shook her head desperately. "No, I was confused. Darius manipulated me. Magnus threatened me. I had no choice." Kael remembered her sword entering his back. Her hand remained steady then. He remembered her face at the execution, untouched. Perfect. "You should have stayed inside the dungeon," Kael said. Selene froze. The blood drained from her lips. He leaned back. "That was what you told me." Her breathing became shallow. "I do not understand." "You will." Lucian pushed forward. He forced a smile that looked diseased. "Brother." Kael glanced at him. Lucian dropped instantly to both knees. "Father was wrong. I was wrong. But we are still family." Lord Arden crawled beside him. "Yes, blood cannot be erased." Kael looked at the man who had removed his name from the family registry. "You erased mine easily." Lord Arden struck his forehead against the floor. "I was protecting the family honor." "What honor?" The question broke him. Garen remained near the door. He tried to move backward. Umbra lifted its head. Garen stopped. Kael addressed him without looking. "Useless dog." Garen's shoulders began to tremble. Those were his own words. Spoken in the guild courtyard. Repeated now from a throne. Garen fell to his knees. "I followed orders." "So did the porter you pushed toward the Bone Knight." Garen's eyes widened. Kael knew everything. Every cowardice. Every betrayal. Every life sacrificed for convenience. The royal king stepped forward carefully. "These criminals should be judged by royal law." Kael looked at him. The king lowered his head. There was no royal law anymore. Only the person with enough strength to enforce consequence. Kael placed the wine glass on the throne arm. "No one here will be executed." Hope entered their faces. It appeared so quickly that Kael almost admired it. Then he continued. "Death is too brief." Darius's hope vanished first. Kael raised one hand. Sovereign Devourer awakened. Flame left Darius's body. Healing light left Selene. Sword aura left Lucian. Bloodline strength left Lord Arden. Physical power left Garen. Every stolen advantage. Every inherited gift. Every skill used to stand above others. Kael removed them. Darius screamed as his mana core emptied. Selene clawed at her chest while her healing channels collapsed. Lucian stared at hands that could no longer hold a sword steadily. Lord Arden aged before their eyes. Garen's muscles withered around old wounds. Kael forged their punishment carefully. He gave Darius a fragment of heat sensitivity. Every warm object would feel like fire. He gave Celine grief echo. She would hear the final cries of everyone she had abandoned whenever she tried to sleep. He gave Lucian weakness mark. Every person who looked at him would instinctively see cowardice. He gave Lord Arden blood rejection. His own family crest would burn his skin. He gave Garen pain preservation. None of his wounds would kill him quickly. All would remain vivid. They stared at Kael in horror. He did not raise his voice. "You will leave the capital." Darius shook his head. "We will die outside." "Yes." Celine reached toward him. "Please forgive me." Kael's expression did not change. "Forgiveness is a gift." He looked across them. "You gave me scraps." The palace guards dragged them away. Not royal guards. Hollow crown guards. Darius screamed Kael's name. Celine begged until her voice broke. Lucian cursed. Lord Arden wept. Garen promised money he no longer possessed. The doors closed. Their ending was not glorious. There was no final battle. No heroic death. No monument. They wandered through ruined borderlands as powerless refugees. Darius died beside a cold fire he could not approach, because the warmth felt like burning flesh. Celine died after weeks without sleep, surrounded by voices only she could hear. Lucian tried to join a band of hunters. They took one look at him and used him as bait. Lord Arden died alone outside the gate of a distant relative who refused to recognize him. Garen lasted longest. Pain preservation kept him alive while old wounds rotted. He died in a ditch, calling for porters who never came. No one buried them. No one remembered them kindly. The capital rebuilt beneath the hollow crown. Guilds were stripped of private armies. Noble vaults became public granaries. Craftsmen received monster materials directly. Hunters signed contracts based on results rather than bloodline. Kael did not create fairness. He created order. Those who produced value prospered. Those who betrayed contracts vanished. People called him cruel. They obeyed anyway. Umbra became the first void sovereign, ruler of the monsters bound beneath the capital. Elara controlled trade across the kingdom. Mira founded an academy of poison and medicine. Torrens forged weapons, armed a new generation of hunters. Kael granted refined skills only to those whose loyalty had been tested through action. Not promises. Never promises. Years later, he stood above the rebuilt city on the highest palace tower. The world beneath him had changed. New dungeons opened. New kingdoms sent tribute. Ancient monsters awakened and lowered their heads. The system continued expanding. No known upper limit. Kael held a glass of wine and watched the sunrise. He remembered the execution arena, the laughter, the hooks, the word trash. He had not escaped his past, he had sharpened it. Umbra rested behind him like a mountain of living night. Elara approached with reports from the eastern kingdoms. Kael did not turn. More rebels? More kings asking for mercy. He smiled. The same small smile Celine had seen before his death. Cold. Quiet final. Tell them mercy is expensive. Elara waited. And if they cannot pay? Kael looked across the empire built from scraps. Then they can learn what the world taught me. The rising sun reflected in his eyes. No one throws away trash more carelessly than a fool standing above a grave.